Hold on.
Just one
Where's
second.
your mic? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. 1 second.
On behalf of the United Workers' Party, I'd like to offer a hearty welcome to all of our media houses present here this morning, and to all of our listeners here in St. Lucia and the diaspora. Thank you for tuning today to this morning's press conference. As a responsible political organization, it is incumbent on the United Workers' Party to bring the truth to light and to hold the St. Lucia Labour Party government accountable for the mismanagement of our country. In the last 3 years, a lot is left to be desired in terms of the behavior of this government in office and their betrayal of the citizens of St. Lucia. And in most recent weeks, the buzz which continues to echo on Ireland, the region, and the world about the CIP scandal. And worst of all, it is compounded by our government's refusal to address the matter, which have fueled even more speculations about the government's intention to deceive the people of St. Lucia. This morning, we shall address the matter head-on, including the ill-conceived halls of justice deal and the GPH deal. And so, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our very first speaker, the Public Relations Officer, PRO of our party, Mr. Leonard Montoute.
Thank you very much, Chairman Prudent. Special good morning to my colleagues, political leader Honorable Alan Chasney and Senator Fede. Special good morning to the members of the media, and I also like to extend a very good morning to the listeners who are following us live in the diaspora and around St. Lucia. This morning I'm going to address the issue of the CIP, and I want to start where I left off during our last press conference, when I stated that St. Lucia's CIP program is on trial. I was asked to revoke that statement, so I will do so now to further enhance the statement. Not only is St. Lucia's CIP program on trial, our passport is at risk. And the name of our country has been sullied. The image of St. Lucia has been severely damaged. I now call on the Prime Minister to show to St. Lucians and the international community that we take seriously the issues that have been raised, that our government will not condone or accept the allegations and accusations and take it lightly, and that we will do all in our power to get to the bottom of it, to show that St. Lucia is not a rogue country. So, I will reiterate the calls made by the opposition, asking our government to do the following immediately. 1, we are asking that Mr. McLeod Emmanuel be sent on leave while the matter is investigated, and that matter is on trial in the US. Number 2, we are asking that the minister responsible for the CIP, having been named in the court matter, in the lawsuit, as a co-conspirator, be relieved of his duties as minister. 3, that the infrastructural program that we know very little to nothing about be put on a halt. And 4, that an independent audit be carried out on St. Lucia's CIP program, the results of which be disclosed to the public of St. Lucia. Now, with the recent development where we saw a press release coming from Prime Minister's office, where the Prime Minister said that he has decided to sign the Memorandum of Agreement, the MOA, already signed by all the other OECS countries. I'm saying that is nothing new. That is what they said previously, that they would sign, but on the previous occasion they indicated that they had not signed because of contractual arrangements that they had to honor. I want to ask the question of the Prime Minister. What were those contractual arrangements? Have they been fulfilled? Have they been met? Do they no longer exist? Or how was a compromise arrived at to forego those contractual arrangements for him to sign, since he could not have signed in light of those contractual arrangements? We need to know. Secondly, the Prime Minister in his statement indicated that after consultations are completed with regional governments and other partners, the government of St. Lucia will suggest further strengthening the CIP program. Really? The CIP program ought to be following certain stringent rules and regulations that should have already been in place and being observed in the conduct of the business of the CIP. There has been much consultation with other governments and partners already. And all other governments, so much so, have signed on to the new arrangements to ensure the integrity of their programs. And St. Lucia, not only have we delayed the signing of that memorandum of agreement, there was also further negligence on the part of the Prime Minister and the government of St. Lucia when they were given an opportunity to avert the embarrassment that we now are going through. When they were asked to visit the United States, where a company involved in a regional CIP program indicated that they had evidence of corruption and malpractice that implicated St. Lucia and that they would like to discuss with our government. In the interests of our image, in the interest of ensuring that our reputation remains what it is, in the interest of the integrity of our CIP program, and for the safeguard of my passport and visa access, our government should have accepted that offer, go and find out what exactly it was that was being referenced, and possibly to have averted the embarrassment that we are now encountering and facing as a nation, as a people. We cannot take this situation lightly. It has dire consequences, serious implications for us as a nation, for our reputation, the reputation of our country, the image of our government, and access of our people to other international countries that we have traditionally done business with, visited, and lived in. So, when will our government sign the memorandum of agreement? They said they will, which is what they said before. Give us a definitive date as to when you will sign that memorandum of agreement. It has now become an imperative that the government of St. Lucia do so. Tell us when. Number two, where is our minister responsible for the CIP? In the face of all of those allegations, in the face of all of those negative developments, we have not seen or heard a word from the minister responsible for the CIP. We, the opposition, call on the minister to come out of hiding and face the St. Lucian public, take responsibility for what he's responsible for, and make a statement to give us some reassurance as to what direction our program is taking under his stewardship. We will not accept for our government officials, after not divulging information, making everything a secret, when the cookie begins to crumble, that they go in hiding. That is unacceptable. So I'm calling on the minister, even before he's relieved of his duties by the Prime Minister, which is what is required at this juncture, that he comes to us and make a statement. Come out of hiding. We have to take this, as I'm talking to the citizens of St. Lucia now, we have to take this matter very seriously. When I said that our program was on trial, the government, well, the St. Lucia Labour Party took umbrage and they took offense. I'm repeating, our CIP program is on trial because Mr. McLeod Emmanuel was not named as a co-defendant in the lawsuit in his private capacity on a matter about his personal business. He was named as the CEO of St. Lucia's Citizen Buy Investment Program. That is why he is named in that lawsuit. So whatever outcome, whatever the result of that lawsuit, it will have direct implications for our CIP program. So I repeat, our CIP program is on trial. Furthermore, the passport that you, St. Lucians, hold in your pocket is at risk. Because depending on what comes out of that lawsuit, if it is proven that we are operating a corrupt program, the international community, namely the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and the EU, can impose sanctions on St. Lucia and take action to deny us of our visa access to their countries. And that will affect you directly. So I repeat, your passport, my passport, our visa access is also at risk. Also at risk is our local banking institutions, because they depend on the correspondent banks who have been subpoenaed in that lawsuit. And of course, God knows what will come out of that lawsuit that may have negative implications for our local banks, which can have direct consequences for you and I as to whether we can use a credit card tomorrow to make online orders, as we all do these days. I mean, we have to understand the seriousness of what our government has put us through right now. And I am beginning to wonder whether all of this could not have been averted if the arrogance and pomposity of our government did not take center stage while they played politics and just acquiesced to the request that was made for them to go to the United States and find out whether in fact there were things untoward, there were corrupt malpractices taking place in our program. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have to think long and hard and very seriously about what has happened to our program. And when I look at the statement made by our Prime Minister, again, it pales in contrast to what is expected of a Prime Minister under such circumstances. You know, recently we had a water emergency, of course, created by the lack of foresight of our government. But now we have an emergency of another kind. This is a national emergency that has to be addressed as such to save the good name of our country. And of course, if we are to benefit from the CIP program like many other Caribbean countries have and are, we have to do something to save it. So, our Prime Minister mentioned that from February 15, 2023, there was a ban on applicants from Russians and Belarusians. And I suspect that is after their meetings with the US, they had to comply to those requirements. But even before I became Public Relations Officer back in 2022 of the United Workers' Party, I am aware that the United Workers' Party had been calling for a cessation of applications from Russians. I personally, upon assuming the position of Public Relations Officer on behalf of the United Workers' Party, I remember the countries that I mentioned was Russia and Iran. Only after we find ourselves in hot water is our government complying and doing what it is they ought to do. It is said here that from 2023, September 2023, they implemented applicant interviews. Really? Are you saying to me that you are accepting applications and approving applications without interviewing the applicants? That should have been a provision that was in place all along. We also see here that from September 2023, vetting of all applications through the local financial intelligence authority, again, that ought to have been a standard, regular occurrence with all applications. From January 2020, sharing of details with the Joint Regional Communication Center, JRCC, I'm pleased to say that that was a recommendation of the then Alan Chasney administration, and that was being followed by the then Alan Chasney administration, and should have been continued by the Philippine administration. Now, I see here, additionally, the St. Lucia CIP unit publishes an annual report that is tabled in Parliament, which includes audited financial statement. That is a legal requirement. That is not an option. That is something they ought to have been doing. And by the way, if my memory serves me correct, the present government has only tabled one report. And that report has more to do with the tenure of the previous administration, as opposed to since they have assumed control of the CIP program. They have not tabled the reports to reflect what has been happening during their tenure. So it is critical that our government do what is necessary, though late, to try to reverse this negative situation, this negative development that has taken place with our program and the sullying of our country's name and reputation, providing a bad image in the international community of St. Lucia today. And so I also noticed that they are saying that the information will be published in the Gazette. Now, whether it be the United Workers' Party administration or the St. Lucia Labour Party administration, I am saying that that practice of solely publicizing important national issues in the Gazette is not adequate. Very few St. Lucians ever see or read a Gazette. If you want the information to be widespread, as it should be, properly publicized, I call for that information to be placed on the government website as well. These are the steps that will show us that our government is serious, and we want our government to stop the practice of playing politics with all national issues, and that every important national development be shrouded in secrecy a la GPH, a la NHC, and in halls of justice, and of course, this now controversial issue of the CIP program of St. Lucia. Again, Prime Minister, relieve your minister who is responsible for the portfolio, and I know sometimes our Prime Minister is a little slow in getting it. I'm referring directly to his Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Ernest Hilaire, who is the Minister responsible for CIP. So he cannot say he didn't get the message. Mr. Hilaire, Honorable Hilaire, sorry, ought to be relieved of his responsibility as Minister for CIP immediately. Secondly, the CEO, who was named as a co-defendant, and by the way, the minister was named as a co-conspirator in the lawsuit. The CEO was named as a defendant, and he ought to be sent on leave while this matter unravels until we get to the bottom of it. And in addition, we also ask that the infrastructure program which seemed to be the program that has caused the main issue that has brought us into a U.S. court, the infrastructural program, should be halted. And finally, to satisfy St. Lucians that we as a people and our government has nothing to hide or is not in the business of covering up, we call for an independent audit to be done on St. Lucia's CIP program. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montoute. As we've said before, it is incumbent on the United Workers' Party to continue to hold this government accountable. We are sharing as much as we know with you, the media, the listeners, the citizens of this country, so that you are better informed, and that we cannot allow this government to continue to mismanage CIP and even to manage all economic aspects and health in this country and don't hold them accountable. Just before I call on the political leader of the United Workers' Party to address you, I must say that we have a town hall meeting in Grosley this coming Sunday, which is the 19th. We will share with you the venue shortly, so just that the listeners out there get ready, because we are having a town hall meeting in the constituency of Grosley, and we will share with you the venue. And without any further ado, I will call upon our political leader, the Honorable Alan Shastney, to address you on the halls of justice, GPH, and a number of pertinent issues facing our country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Before I get to the GPH and halls of justice, let me just take this opportunity to thank our PRO, Mr. Spider Montoute, for his intervention, and maybe to reinforce some of the things that he was speaking about. So first of all, yesterday, the leaders of the opposition from St. Kitts, Antigua, St. Lucia, and Grenada issued a joint statement. The essence of this statement is that all of us support the CIP program. The CIP program has been and can continue to be an integral part in the development of our individual countries, as well as our regional organizations of the OECS and the Central Bank. If the CIP program is done transparently and with accountability, and very importantly, recognizes the security risk that we can create for our partnering countries. Canada, that gives us a visa waiver. United Kingdom, that still allows St. Lucians and other members of the OECS to go to England visa-free. The Schengen visa, which allows us to go to all of the European countries, including Martinique and Guadeloupe, visa-free. And while the United States has a visa application process, that visa application process is here in our region, and I can tell you, is substantially less stringent than on countries in which they consider to be a high risk from a security perspective. The CIP program has contributed in some instances to budgetary support. We've heard St. Kitts say up to 51% of the government's budget is being funded by the CIP program. I believe that Dominica is in the same realm. We see capital projects. We see real estate projects that have been created by the CIP program. CIP program is not something that's new in the world. The United States of America was built on immigration. Canada had a very robust CIP program to entice persons from Hong Kong to move to Canada when Hong Kong be reconnected with mainland China. We see in the UK, golden passports has been in existence for a very long time. So it's not the program that's the problem. The program can be a significant contributor to the development of this region. It is how we run the program. It's the integrity of the program. It's the transparency of the program. And it's the trust in which people have in our program. When countries allow us and our citizens to go in visa-free, it's an act of trust. Today, CARICOM is meeting to discuss freedom of movement of people. I cannot imagine that this is not going to be an issue. Can the other CARICOM countries who are not participated in the CIP program, who now know almost 200,000 persons have been given citizenship, can they trust that the due process was done properly? So sometimes we keep thinking immediately of the UK and Europe, and we forget that the other CARICOM countries are also allowing us to visit and invest in CARICOM countries by treaty. By treaty. In the case of the OECS, persons can move and live in each other's countries without permission. And that is being done on trust. We saw the press statement by the Prime Minister yesterday. I think, like many other people, I was embarrassed. It was shameful. It was disrespectful. It was dishonest. That in face of all of the information that has come to bear in the last week, that the Prime Minister is still saying that he intends to sign? He was saying he was going to intend to sign months ago. What has changed? Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed in his statement, but certainly a lot of things have changed that we should be scared. A press statement came out on Friday from the EU Commission to say that Vietnam's Schengen visa has been suspended permanently. Permanently. That means the likelihood of them ever getting a Schengen visa for their citizens is now gone. And what does it say? The decision followed Vanuatu's announcement in the preceding month that it would open a third CBI program, the Real Estate Option Program, which was set to have a singular master agent. In essence, a secret deal. We have our own secret deal in St. Lucia called infrastructure. We have been asking the government to explain to us what is the infrastructural program. All we are told, it's $100,000. If you go on the website of CIP, if you want to make a donation, it explains to you the amount for the donation, how you apply, the application forms, the entire procedure is there. If you want to buy a bond, it tells you the amount for the bond. It tells you how do you go about applying for the bond and what the process is to get your citizenship. Real estate, it identifies 2 projects under the real estate program. It tells you who the projects are. It gives you details on the hotels that they're building. They tell you who the people are. It tells you what the amount is and what the process is to be able to get your citizenship through the real estate. All it says about infrastructure is it's part of the enterprise program. It's $100,000. Nowhere does it tell you what infrastructural projects. Nowhere does it tell you how you apply. Nowhere does it tell you who the agent is. But like what is becoming accustomed in this country, a third-party entity has to tell us what it is. So in a press statement today by Galaxy, point 3, Caribbean Galaxy is a developer in the newly announced infrastructure option under the Government of St. Lucia's Citizenship Program, where in addition to financing the various infrastructure projects, we will provide revenues through the collection of fees to the Government of St. Lucia. What? What program do we have that third parties collect fees for the government? What are the projects? Now we all remember the same Hilaire who in opposition said what? That he questioned the entry of Galaxy into St. Lucia because of their reputation in St. Kitts. And when we brought Galaxy here, we made sure that there was an escrow account. We made sure that we brought in a reputable management company in AMR. We made sure that the CIP board knew every single month how much money had gone into the escrow account and what the drawdowns were. I want this government to tell us how much money is in the escrow account today, given the fact that Galaxy has sold all of its allocation. So it means it should have raised in excess of $1 billion US. 2.7 billion EC dollars to be able to build a project. Is that money in the escrow account today? Can the government tell us that? But what is more alarming is that in St. Kitts, they allowed Galaxy to be the singular agent, the same thing that got Vinatnu in problems with the EU, to build a prison for $50 million. The current government did an audit and said that the former government allowed them to sell 5,500 shares in that project at $200,000 a share. So again, almost $1 billion was allowed to be collected to build a $50 million prison, and the prison was never finished. That is information we know today. So why would the minister not have been consistent? Why would he have not asked Galaxy to finish the hotel first? Doesn't that make sense? Prove to me that you've earned my trust. Prove to me that what took place in St. Kitts was not your fault. Finish the hotel. But no, the hotel is not finished. No information is being provided to us, the public. And you turn around now and have a secret deal in which it's Galaxy that has to come out and now and admit that they're an agent for the infrastructure program. A program that we in St. Lucia know nothing of, other than by name. So when we've asked that Claude Emmanuel be suspended, and we asked the minister to be removed,
and that an independent investigation be done. These are the things that need to be investigated. How much money is in the escrow account for the hotel? And have they followed all of the checks and balances that were put in place? How many passports were given to Galaxy to do this infrastructure program? What is the infrastructure program? When people are buying into it, what are they buying into? Is it a school? Is it a highway? What is it? What is it that the people are buying? But millions of dollars are being sent to Galaxy. We don't know what account. Is it an escrow account? Where is the account? What is the checks and balances that are being put in place? We know that MSR has filed a civil case against Timothy Harris, Denzel Douglas, Les Can when he was acting as the CEO in St. Kitts, and who is now the CEO of Galaxy, one and the same, and McLeod Emanuel, because he's claiming that they knew that there was discounting taking place and they supported it. That's the allegation. So you would think that the government would want to rush to sign this memorandum of agreement, and for the Prime Minister to even suggest that it's not binding. So what, you're going into an agreement from the get-go without faith? You're disingenuous from the beginning? And St. Lucia right now is not only posing a threat to St. Lucian citizens, it is posing a threat to Kittitians, to Antiguans, to Dominicans, and to Grenadians. So, my anger and my distrust comes from the fact that this government is acting with impunity, as if they are only speaking for themselves, and that their protection of us and their oath to protect St. Lucians is gone. So we're in jeopardy now of losing our visa-free access to the Schengen area. I believe that we're in jeopardy of losing it to the UK. There's a possibility that the Canadians may decide to tighten up on our waiver system. And I would not be surprised that if for the first time other CARICOM countries might not be contemplating whether in fact we are in breach of our treaty. Why? Again, the proof is there. In the last 3 weeks, 3 individuals were arrested. 1 was arrested in the UK and 2 arrested in America. Money laundering, extortion, malware infestation, human trafficking. And what did all 3 people have in common? All of them were able to get citizenships in St. Kitts. All 3. And in the case of one of them, apparently, using false documentation. So that begs the question. The due diligence process. So you don't think now Europeans, British, Canadians, Americans, and also CARICOM countries are going to sit here and say, what is going on? Is it only today that they've brought these things to our attention? No. As Spider read, as far back as last year, there was a meeting in the US to agree on things that were already in place that should have already been done. You have to have somebody on the outside come and tell you that. So again, they must feel betrayed. Everybody's feeling betrayed. And even more dangerously was in 2013 to 2016, this region was suffering from what's called de-risking, where the correspondent banks realized that the due diligence processes in our local banks were inadequate and that they were taking the risk. And that's what we're facing today. That by those banks being subpoenaed, what is it telling the banks? That the due diligence process that they thought that they had strengthened is not working. That illegal transactions have been taking place. And the consequence of that is those persons who go online and use their credit card will not be able to do that. Those persons who want to go and travel and use their credit card will not be able to do that. But also locally, all the tourists coming to our country will not be able to pay for anything using a credit card. Can't go to the restaurant, can't do duty-free shopping, can't go on tours. So here it is, the citizens of this country will be isolated because they can't travel anywhere. Maybe not even within their own region. Certainly not to Martinique, not to Guadeloupe. And that we have no money. Our money is not going to be accepted. And that's why I'm saying that the statement by the Prime Minister is egregious, is unacceptable, it's despicable, it's irresponsible. And he's playing with the lives of the people of this country with impunity. And that when we see the behavior every single Monday at the press conferences, we're left to wonder whether in fact he's fit to hold office. Because the number of times that he tells you, I don't know. I don't know this, I don't know that. So either he genuinely doesn't know, genuinely does not know, and therefore is not fit to be in office. Or he does know and he is lying to us, which means he also should not be holding office. And that's why I lead into GPH. We now know the deal. The deal is that GPH is going to increase the head tax for cruise tourism to $12 from $6.50. And the math that the Prime Minister was asked about, here it is. The GPH will get $11 and the government of St. Lucia will get $1. So that means that GPH will generate over $440 million US, in his own words, to spend $30 million US dollars. That makes sense to anyone? Why? Why? What is it that GPH is going to do that we couldn't do for ourselves? We couldn't raise the head tax. You said it yourself, the head tax had not been increased since the 90s. I told you as Prime Minister we were ready and negotiated with the cruise lines to increase it to the $12. So we didn't take GPH to do that. SLASPA built the extension to the port at Point Seraphin. What's the big deal if in fact the decision is to expand the port facility on the North Wharf? You really believe that SLASPA couldn't do that? Invest St. Lucia built Point Seraphin. So you're telling me that Invest St. Lucia couldn't build a vendor's arcade? Can't fix up Bananas? Can't fix up Soufrere? We need to bring somebody in from outside, allow them to make $10 on every dollar that we're going to make? Sorry, $11 on every dollar we're going to make? Does that make sense to us? At a time when our hospitals are not performing, our schools are under threat, our water system is under threat. We need money and we're giving away the money? And to make it worse, that the government just gave them the contract. There was no tender. halls of justice. Why? Again, it has taken a newspaper outside of St. Lucia to reveal what the government did not tell us. That they're going to spend $300 million. The rent that the Ministry of Justice is going to have to pay is $16 a square foot. That's 4 times the amount at the Daher Mall. And I say that because the same Hilaire said that Daher Mall is the most expensive rent in St. Lucia. So if it's the most expensive rent in St. Lucia at $4 a square foot, what does he call $16 a square foot? Extortion. And in that deal, $150 million is going to be paid in interest. So the question is, why would you not do it through NIC and allow the pensioners of this country to have benefited from that generosity instead of a company outside of St. Lucia? Same people who decried NIC from lending money to Cabot to make money for the pensioners. Today is turning around and not allowing NIC to lend the money for the halls of justice. And I want us to think for a moment. For those of you who have not gone to the Orange Grove, or what we used to know as Daher Mall, I want you to go there. Think of that building. See that building. Add one more floor to that building and move that building now to Constitution Park. There's no St. Lucian that can tell me that that makes sense. To put that size building in the heart of town with no parking? You're going to put all of your courts in one building, and all we have to do is have somebody call up for a bomb threat. And we know those people exist. And all your courts are shut down? Think of it. That makes sense to you? Where is it that this deal even remotely offers any opportunity for St. Lucians? NLA. $80 million goes into the NLA. The NLA falls under the Ministry of Sports. The Minister of Sports is the district representative for Grosley. In an interview with you, the media, when he was asked who the contractor was, he said, I know the person, but I don't know the name of the company. So you're going to give this person and his company in excess of $40 million of contracts. And you want all of us to believe you don't know who he is? He gets Darren Sammy Stadium, he gets the Grosley Field, and he gets Simples Park. And I want to know, how many people have gone up to Darren Sammy Stadium? And ask yourself, are we ready to host cricket next week? And should any one of us be surprised as to what is going on? That when you just throw money, put square pegs in round holes, inexperienced people, and again, what you're doing at the expense of the reputation of St. Lucia. St. Lucia that was held in the highest esteem by ICC. While you were in opposition, who did you criticize? Don Lockerbie. Don Lockerbie's company is the one that built the stadium on Long Island to host the cricket. So he and his company's career has continued to be true to the cause. Has the Labour Party and all of the allegations that they've made, the promises they've made, have they delivered on anything? So I want to say that as an opposition, we are going to stand on guard. We reiterate our statement. The minister must be reassigned and a new minister put in charge of CIP. Claude Emmanuel must be sent on leave. The board of CIP, and sometimes, we allow people to remain faceless. Mr. Julian Charles, Mr. Sean Alexander, Mr. Kamali Shalmain. Are there any I'm missing? And Renee Williams, but Renee left. All of these people, they are on that board representing the people of this country. They are given the autonomy to protect the integrity of the CIP program. It is not acceptable that in this firestorm that is taking place, in which the integrity of this country is at stake, our visa-free access is at stake, our banking system is under threat, that you want to remain silent and invisible. What is the infrastructure program? Where is the money going? Now that we know it is Galaxy. So in the donation program, the money goes into the CIP and goes into the economic fund. We know we can go and touch it. Where is this money going? What checks and balances has the government put in place knowing that Galaxy did the prison in St. Kitts? And there's no prison. Yet over 5,500 passports were sold. Where's the money? Where is it? Money is being channeled through GPH. Money is being channeled through NH. Money is being channeled through contractors. And the last one I want to see is on Friday, a contract was issued for $63 million to Reno Gajada and a Saudi Arabian firm to build St. Jude's. Has anyone seen the drawings? Does anyone know what they're going to do? And I want to put this government on warning and on notice that if they believe that by having a tender for qualifications and that only one company qualifies, gives them the right to turn around and issue that contract to that company without going to a construction bid, think twice. And clearly that this is another secret deal. This is the same government, you remember, when they were in opposition, said it only was going to take $30 million and 3 months to move into the old hospital. Now they're proposing to spend $265 million. That's the total amount of money that's been spent on the new building and the old building. And they want to convince us that they're going to spend it in 2 years and be open. We all need to wake up and realize that this government has betrayed us, continues to betray us. They lie with impunity. And they only have one interest, and that is their own interest. That's not the democracy that we have. They have breached our democracy every day. And the only persons that can defend our democracy, if we genuinely believe in it, if we believe in our own freedoms, if we believe in our right to own property, if we believe in our freedom of speech, if we believe in our freedom of mobility and to move around, if we don't believe in an oppressive government. And I want to say to all of us, all the signs are there. If we are living in fear because of victimization, that tells you everything you need to know about this government. They have destroyed our democracy. Because no government is allowed or should be able to be in a position to intimidate us, to to that extent. And we are losing sweet St. Lucia. So we need to come together to save our St. Lucia. Thank you.
Thank you to our political leader, Alan Chastney, for a very informative presentation. St. Lucians, you are forewarned. You are losing your country bit by bit, and through the corrupt practices of this St. Lucia Labour Party government, you are losing your country. It's incumbent on you, citizens of this country, to be cognizant of what is happening, and not just to be cognizant, but to start preparing to take relative action against this government, which is a demonstration of your rights to protest against this government forthright. And we are saying it to you today, and we are going to say it to you tomorrow, and we're going to say to you the day after. We, the United Workers' Party, will continue to hold this government responsible. I just want to make a quick correction before we go into our questions section. And to say that I said the 19th for the town hall meeting. It's actually Sunday the 9th, which is this coming Sunday. I'm correcting myself. This is when we are having the town hall meeting. We also have our 60th anniversary celebrations that's ongoing, where we are proud of the United Workers' Party for everything we've accomplished in the last 60 years. And the things that we've done in this country, 90% of which is the work of the United Workers' Party. No one can deny this in terms of infrastructure, education, healthcare, the ability of St. Lucians to work their way from poverty into middle-class families and to be able to own things of their own, pipe-borne water. These were all the work of the United Workers' Party, and it is one of the reasons that we are proud as UWPs to celebrate this occasion. Having said this, we will open so that if you have any questions, you can direct it to any of our presenters here this morning. Media? Yeah.
One question. My question is concerning Wasco. The issues at Wasco are well documented. My question then is, and I also asked the Prime Minister this question, he believes that infrastructure should happen first and then you fix the management. But my question is it not management first? Fix the management at Wasco and then fix the infrastructure.
Repeat the question for Facebook viewers.
The question from the media is that the issues at Wasco, whether in fact that you fix the infrastructure and fix the management afterwards, or you fix the management first and you fix the infrastructure. Sadly, in St. Lucia, we've run out of time, and we have to run in parallel. But I think it's management's decisions that have actually put us in the position we're in. And we've asked this question. There was a desilting program. When the new government came in, did they continue the desilting program? So yes, you can only desilt in the rainy season. And it was going to take you 10 years for desilting, assuming that there's no more silting. But the primary focus of the desilting program was to clear the lower water intake, which would automatically have increased the amount of water available. And the question from the media is a very important question. And it's a question when I was Prime Minister I put to CDB. Because the water, we had two problems. The silting of the dam and the availability of water. But more importantly, once the water went to Cicero and it was treated, that becomes very expensive water. That over 60% of that water is being lost in transmission. Now, when we were doing the Rodney Bay Road, and it's not about politics, it was for people to see for themselves, the people that were driving by, the condition of the pipe. So it's at that point, even though it was not budgeted, because we were digging up the road, we stopped the road in the middle of COVID to go and try to find the pipes and lay down the pipes. But that exact work has to be done
all throughout the north, and in particular, Castries. And there is a science, we forgot science, to find the solution, and it's called smart metering. And how does a smart metering work? You put a meter at one end of a pipe, you put a meter at the other end of the pipe, so you see how much water is going through the pipe. So you know, okay, I need to replace that. And you just start putting smart metering and you work through process. Is there a program? So you're 100% right. One cannot coexist without the other. It will not work. And that's why I asked the question, is it true that the desilting program was stopped? And has that contributed in any way in the water shortage that we have?
Well, the Prime Minister says that the money for the program was finished and the desilting wasn't done. So that's what he said when I asked him that question. I think I read it.
The monies were borrowed from CDB to do the silt trap and for the silting. A decision had to be made. Are you going to keep a company on that could only do the desilting during the winter? I mean the rainy season, the wet season? Or as that was being said, a proposal was on the table to buy our own dredge. So it would be permanently here. So management made a decision not to do that? What was the fallback position? Guess what? No silting. While they're trying to figure it out. It's like the Rodney Bay Road. $15 million to do 2 roundabouts, 4-lane highway, and a pedestrian walkover. It cost $15 million to build the bridge by Bois-d'Orange. Just think of it for a moment. And we know what the truth is. There was no corruption. The Ministry of Infrastructure absolutely was involved in the design and the approval of the project. And now that you stop the project and you had to evaluate the work that was done, it was over $20 million. So you have to pay the contractor the $20 million for an unfinished job, and now you have to find a new contractor. So in hindsight, did the $15 million make sense as a fixed contract? And we're seeing that kind of decision making all the way through. Why would you go and not do the halls of justice next to the police headquarters? What is this nonsense that people talking about? Oh, you don't have a police station next to a courthouse? Really? But the rest of the world is moving in that direction, and especially criminal courts. And we fall for that. Time and time again. What the government is not talking about, what's the cost overrun on the Millennium Highway? What's the cost overrun on HIA? What's the cost overrun on Rodney Bay? How much is it costing the government to have stopped the Shock housing development and the Tavern housing development? Where is that money going to come from? See, and that starts to explain the budget. The economy grew by 2.2% and debt grew by 8.8%. The debt is growing 4 times faster than the economy.
My question is about halls of justice. And I was listening to you on the roundtable discussion speak about the construction process. And it brought to mind, do we know if a feasibility study has been done to ascertain how the construction of this building is going to impact the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception? Because we know that that cathedral that was built in the 1800s, so it's about 100 years old. How is the piling that is going to be done to build the foundation of this massive building going to impact the stability of the cathedral?
So the question is on the halls of justice, whether in fact that there was an environmental impact study and planning approval given for that project, considering the location and its proximity to the cathedral and also to other buildings in the area and what impact that's going to have. So you're 100% correct. I don't believe that they have planning approval. I think that they're now working backwards to try to see and get the involvement. I mean, so it's for the church to be satisfied that whatever technology they're going to use for the piling. But as I said to you, let's just put it in our minds. You're going to build the Daher Mall with an extra floor in that space. So even from an aesthetic perspective, you're going to have now a massive building that's going to dwarf the church. Put that in contrast to the plan that the United Workers' Party had, which started under Sir John, where it talked about breaking down the Printry, breaking down the Parliament, breaking down the courthouse. Now that we know all those things the Labour Party are in agreement with, and leaving that park open. So when you're coming into the town, the first building you would have seen would have been the cathedral. And then moving the container port out of Castries and putting into cul-de-sac, and now using the old Prince of Alfred Basin as old Castries. So again, when you look down from the Derek Walcott Square side past the library, it's an open space. And you open up your city and you attract people back in your city. I don't understand. Why is it we want to bring more cruise ship passengers into Castries and create even more congestion? How does that make any sense? Can you imagine 14,000 people in Castries in one day? Where are they going to go? So why would the government not want to build a cruise ship port in the south, where there's greater opportunity for the development of attractions, create less congestion? But importantly, we now see that Antigua, and maybe that's the answer to our question, is expanding its port for home porting. The same home port that we wanted to put in View Fort. Everything that this government is doing is leaving us with the one question: why?
On that revelation for St. Jude's, you said that a contract for $63 million was awarded.
U.S.
U.S. Okay. $63 million U.S. was awarded. Where is the 63 million? Is it $63 million plus $265 million to build the facility?
No, the $63 million is part of the 265. So the $63 million is coming from the Saudis. But I want us to really understand, just like the press statement that the government made on CIP. The press statement on CIP is just playing for time. Vague, no details, nothing specific. Right? The government went out to tender for what's called qualifications. So it means the contractors have to put in a bid to show that they're qualified to build this building. But no designs were provided. No costings were done for St. Jude's. Okay? And only one company qualified. Happened to be CIE with a Saudi Arabian firm. Now, under normal bidding practices, you would go back out to bid, because you cannot have a fair bid with only one person. Normally, the minimum is 3. So we have the example here with the bridge in cul-de-sac. When they did the qualifications bid, only one company qualified. They went back out to bid. And they changed it so that they could get more people to qualify. So this government now has taken the opportunity, and I think, to fool the people. Oh, we went out to bid. That's what they're going to tell you. And only one company qualified. But they didn't go out to bid to build the building. Qualifications. And they've now using the opportunity to give this company the contract. Now, that's between the government and the Saudi Arabians. But for local law, and in the parlance of local, because the entity, who is going to pay back the money? People of St. Lucia. It's not a grant. It's a loan. They haven't even told us where the money is going to come from to pay back all this money. And worse yet, if you're going to spend $265 million, you really believe you're going to be getting that hospital anytime soon? Meanwhile, you have a brand new building. The ground floor is over 80% complete. We could have been in that ground floor already for $50 million. This is the insanity of what is taking place in this country.
I have a question.
You have a question? Yeah, go ahead. It's about CIP and other related matters. In your party's manifesto in 2021, you guys announced the commencement of the Canals Resort by Caribbean Galaxy.
Yep.
At present, MSR is alleging that some corrupt practices would have gone on with that project.
Mm-hmm.
While you guys were in government, would you not have had any notice of these allegations?
There were allegations being made of this practice. And I know that the board itself, while we were in government. And so what was being alleged was that Galaxy was selling the citizenship or the real estate investment for $300,000 and providing financing. So you come, you put down $150,000 and they say they're going to finance the rest of it. And I know that the board was doing its own audits, but very importantly, and that's why I bring it up, the money had to be put into the escrow account so that there is some level of accountability in that regard. I would say to you, in hindsight, today, I think there's one added element that we should do. And I would be surprised if the board that I knew that was there didn't do it, is for each citizen to prove that they paid the money. To actually show the wire transfer for the $300,000. Because in our day, the real estate option was the $300,000. So there are mechanisms and checks and balances available to make that happen. What has happened recently, and again, MSR has shown in the case of St. Kitts, and they are now showing in the case of St. Lucia, that has just gone, become an accepted practice. And what MSR is indicating is that they have an audio tape of the CEO of CIP here in St. Lucia admitting to that practice. So this is one of the features of the real estate program that I did not like. So if you have a moment, what I'd like to do is to explain to you something. When we came into government, there was a real estate program approved called Range at Black Bay. That deal was signed 6 days before the elections. So it means that Parliament had already been prorogued. I don't even know if Cabinet was meeting, and they approved it. And I worked with the developer, and I said, I'm not comfortable with the real estate program, and I'm not. So what we agreed to do is that he would sell our donation program. The monies would go into the donation program, so we would know how much money we're collecting, and then we were going to lend him the money for the hotel. Unfortunately for us, the economic fund was not up and running. So very much like the infrastructural program. The economic fund was in the act as a fund, but there was no regulations to it. So I'm seeing now that the infrastructure program is in the act, but I'm not seeing any regulations to it. And we were not able to get that money to the developer. So the developer had sold $20 million worth of citizenships, US, in St. Lucia. So what we agreed to do is to pay him a 10% commission for that money. So St. Lucia obtained $18 million net positive. He had paid money for the land. We returned the money, the same money that he paid for the land. And then we paid him $1.5 million for the drawings that he had done and the work that he'd put in. So in essence, after you take off the next $1.5 million, the government of St. Lucia was $16.5 million better off than when we did the deal. But I wish that I had stuck to that plan, and I think that that's the recommendation we're going to make, that the real estate program needs to be amended where the money is coming into the state and not into an escrow account. So we do know the money is going into an escrow account. The escrow account is in China. And there's a contract as to how that money can be drawn down, but it's still not, I think, 100% clad type.
So when these allegations would have been brought forward back in 2018, what did your administration do?
Investigated every single one of them.
Was anything found?
Nothing was found at the time. But the better person to really speak to, and I'm not passing the buck, it really is the CEO. He would have actually more hands-on details, the former CEO, for that. But certainly, when I brought up the issue, right, the board told me that they had not found any evidence to confirm that was taking place. But again, I'm going to say to you, very difficult to prove. And that's one of the flaws of the real estate program. Because the real estate investor can say it was in the form of a commission. And that's between me and the client. So there are a lot of ways in which the system could be manipulated. So I really genuinely believe the only way to prevent it from happening that way is to make sure that the money is actually coming into an account in the state, and that money then is transferred through an escrow account here. But the problem was none of the banks or any of the entities were prepared to open up an escrow account in St. Lucia. So again, on hindsight, I think that my initial plan, which was to put the money into the donation program, is what should have continued. And I personally believe there was no need to bring any third-party persons in. I would have rather seen that money being used, and there were many conversations that we had towards that the government would have had, through Invest St. Lucia, built the hotels and do exactly the same thing the developers are, give out management contracts to the different brands. And at least people would have seen where their money was going to go to. But the real estate program, which was prevalent in Antigua, in St. Kitts, in Dominica, as well as in Grenada, had become a very potent product, and I think in a large part for some of the reasons why we're seeing today. It gave the developer a lot of room for discounting.
In 2019, you guys changed one of the regulations in the CIP Act to remove the authority of granting agent licenses from the FSRA, the Financial Services Regulatory Authority, to the CIP board. Don't you think that action contributed too much of the controversy around the happenings that goes on in CIP today?
I would rather get actual specifics before I answer that question, because I think it warrants a very, very good question, if in fact that's the case. I know that my administration, when we came in, all files went through the RSSS and impacts. And it was a very difficult process because it was not well established. So I'm very happy that we were the trendsetters in making that happen. The idea of reporting all of our files to our partners was being done. Any revocation of the passports was being shared with our partners. And the banks who are processing it are required by law to have known their customers and to know where the money was coming from. Right? So I would have to, the first time I've seen anything with the FRA was in a press statement by the Prime Minister this week. So I promise you that within a couple of days, I will actually get you an answer to understand what the FRA's role is in that thing, and whether in fact we actually exempted it or not. I want to know in detail, and I will get back to you on that.
Your party is in 60 years. Mm-hmm. Congratulations. Recently, you have traveled to the United Kingdom and you have met with other political leaders in your international affiliates group. Yeah. Also, part of your international affiliates group is the Republican Party of the United States. Mm-hmm. The leading Republican candidate is the first ever president was convicted. In many ways, the United Workers' Party and the Republican Party could be considered sister parties. what are your thoughts on the former president? One may consider your brother at arms being convicted of felonies in U.S. court.
That's an issue with him and the citizenry of America and their own laws. The fact is that my understanding is that he's going to appeal, but I'm not here to defend any individual's actions. I can only account for United Workers' Party. So we are, and like many other political parties, affiliated to different parties. We share values, but the individual running of those parties are those parties. If in fact any political party is in breach of the values and the standards we've set, then I would imagine that party would be kicked out by the IDU, because you're talking about the International Democratic Union, which is long established. Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, has a long pedigree of great leaders that have been members of it. So I'm not so sure you can hold United Workers' Party accountable for that. I mean, I don't get involved in other countries' politics at all. So like the statement that was put out by the leaders of the opposition yesterday, where there is a common issue, we will speak. But I don't, and I think that the press statement is very fair. It doesn't get into the individual circumstances in any one of the countries. But we all, as IDU members, believe in democracy. We believe in the rule of law.
When you went to Trinidad, the Prime Minister, Mr. Rowley, he would have thrown a swipe at you. That was carried by the media, calling it tropical Trump. Quite funny characterization. But would you consider yourself a Trump supporter, Mr. Shasta?
A Trump supporter? What difference does it make? And in fact, when Mr. Rowley made his comments, I was very saddened at the fact that he had not recognized that I was there meeting with the leader of the opposition of Trinidad. And my comments were about his responsibility as a lead prime minister for security. So I, again, did not react to it because I saw that as their own local politics. And as a politician, you stay away from it. Some politicians come here and get involved in local politics on the advisement of their local parties.
But what was interesting was the aftermath, the reaction of the people of Trinidad and social, civil society to Mr. Rowley's very unfortunate statements. He was hauled over the coals by nationals of his own country for that
categorization.
Very, sad and unfortunate characterization.
Just two more questions and I'll let you go. You guys have your town hall meeting this Saturday?
Sunday.
Elections are due constitutionally due 2 years from now, in about a month, and then Mr. Montut, I think, is the only UWP candidate to have publicly expressed his desire to retire. Have you guys found another person to fill his seat?
We've actually found several people.
Several?
I'm not free to say that at this point because this is a closed process in its initial stages, deliberately so. All right, so the contest is initially to win the support of the party. And one of the things we want to avoid from having is persons who may be working somewhere else and who fear the victimization of this government if all of a sudden they're considered to be a candidate. Sad reality that we have in our country. So there's a process right now where in all the constituencies there is an interview process, there's a screening process that's taking place. Some of those constituencies already have completed that and have sent me and the committee the names of the persons to be candidates, but I'm really very heartened by the quality of the candidates and the number of candidates that have been coming forward.
And that's not just in one locality. We're talking about nationally.
And in the case of the identity of candidates being withheld right now, it's not like what it used to be when Kenson was still a public servant and had been declared a candidate. We have our people who are afraid of the current government now. They will not take that chance.
We have the government making moves to implement a minimum wage. The proposed figure is $1,126 thereabout. At your last press conference, your deputy leader would have criticized that figure not being enough. I think the figure was given about, let's say, $8 an hour. I think was given. We're seeing tangentially Jamaica wants to implement a minimum wage, which would be less than that of St. Lucia. But as political leaders in the opposition, what do you think is a suitable minimum wage for the people of St. Lucia?
Well, certainly much higher than what we have now. And the reason why minimum wage is becoming such a hot issue, it was a hot issue before, but even more so now, because this government has done and failed in protecting the people from inflation.
Why didn't the administration implement a minimum wage?
Oh, we were working very actively on a minimum wage. And I think, and for the same reason that they have found here.
Last 2 years we had COVID, don't forget that. So we were talking about the possibility of earning a wage.
So I just want to say, I also want to say, because it's a real question, that there are different sectors here that can afford to pay different wages. And to find a mechanism to satisfy all of them was proving to be very difficult. My government was working on different mechanisms because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's what you take home. So if you know that we were going to be looking to introduce health care insurance, we were looking to introduce unemployment insurance, and our government was doing everything it could to keep the price of fuel, to keep the price of cooking gas, the price of bus fares, the price of bread down. This government has now exasperated the situation because it's allowed all of those items to go up in price, which has significantly diminished the amount of money that people have in their pocket. Right. And then the other one is that when we came into government in 2016, the unemployment rate was 25%. Youth unemployment was 44%. And in 3 years, we were able to bring unemployment down to 15% and youth unemployment down to 31%. So we were actually creating a situation where we would increase the demand for workers and the market would have driven that price up. But in no way did we believe that was sufficient. And that's why the social system that we were putting in place for pensioners, increasing their pensions, finding a way to provide people with vouchers for food, find them vouchers for electricity, find them help with their kids and going back to school. So I want to say to you, there are different ways that you can achieve a minimum wage. This government now has found themselves in a dilemma because they've allowed the cost of living in this country to go up so astronomically that increasing the wage itself has become the only necessary way to fix the problem.
Have you guys commented or objected to the wage? Because there was this option to comment or your...
I think the people are doing a great job. I mean, our job is really to support the people, allow for there to be proper ventilation on this issue, and it's interesting to see what the people's own reaction is. So, a lot of the people who I've spoken to feel very insulted that the government thinks that that's what they're worth. And especially when one considers the increase in cost of living. What has the government done to have allowed the bus fares to have stayed where they were? Why did the government allow the price of bread to go up? Why is the government selling the price of gas at $16.50 when the barrel of gas has dropped down significantly less than that? Cooking gas. What are they doing? And the fact is that I think that the policies that the government have implemented are actually going to work against all of us. Because what we're seeing is that household income is dwindled. And therefore, the ability for people to consume is going down. And that's why I'm saying to you, when you look at the budget, this government has borrowed $700 million in 2 years. Between 2016 and 2019, my administration borrowed $300 million. So what they have borrowed in 1 year is what we borrowed in the 3 years. They've allowed prices to go up in the economy. They've not controlled inflation. And, we keep on thinking, okay, I heard a story that came out that said inflation was down now. But inflation has gone up by double digits over the last 3 to 4 years. Is there a reversal? Are we seeing now a decline in the price? In fact, we're starting to see negative inflation? No. We continue to have inflation. It continues to be very difficult for people to make ends meet in this country. And I think in a large part, it is the policies of this government that has created that crisis.
They've not championed the people of this country. They've betrayed them, and we must continue to emphasize that. We've provided more safety nets for the people and the poor persons here in this country than the Labour Party has ever done. So when you're going to pay me $6.50 an hour as a poor person, minimum wage, where's the other safety nets to cover me when I have to pay for health, when I have to put food on my table, when I have to send my children to school? This is never going to get anyone here in this country out of poverty.
And I think very, very important to the chairman's point. The NLA is a very good example. The NLA, the monies from the NLA was supposed to go to help support the youth. Here it is, you're taking 700,000 EC dollars a month for the next 15 years to pay a contractor. How many scholarships? How much educational support could that have provided to thousands of young people? When you take $400 million US dollars from our ports, all of that, where's that money? When you go and pay, 3 times the price to build the halls of justice, and it doesn't even go into NIC to help the pensioners of this country?
I have a question for you, our political leader. Why do you believe the Prime Minister has refused to tell us that he had a contract with Galaxy in terms of infrastructure?
Because the Prime Minister, again, it's a secret deal. The Prime Minister continues to play the same game. Deny in order to avoid having to provide any levels of details. Doesn't want to provide details on GPH. Doesn't want to provide details on the halls of justice. Didn't want to provide details on the NLA. Even in the House. Twice the bill came back to the House. What's the details on St. Jude's? What's the details on HIA Airport? What's the details on Millennium Highway? Where are all these details? Where are the details on what's taking place with Wasco? This government does not want to be held accountable and is acting with impunity in this country.
This question, I have one more question, just I'm not holding you back for too long, but it's to our public relations officer. Are you disappointed that the SLP instead put a press release before the government put out an official statement? And why do you believe that the CIP minister, Mr. Ernest Ile, has kept so very quiet?
Well, yes, I'm disappointed that is the case, but not surprised. Because politics comes first to the present government. And in everything that they do, you've seen that it is political considerations as opposed to national interests. And so, again, with Mr. Hiller not making a statement and being quiet, he just said the political leader. Everything is a secret with this government. There's no accountability. There is no taking of responsibility. There's nothing transparent about what they do. I mean, you had a government minister actually make the admission that she negotiated with business interests from out of St. Lucia regarding the port in Soufrière, and it was a secret deal that was made. I mean, they actually openly admitting it. So when you ask the Prime Minister certain questions about national issues, he openly say to you, it is not your business. So that is the modus operandi of our current government, that everything remains a secret, everything is shrouded in secrecy and so on. Now you ask yourself, why? Is there anything to hide? Your guess is as good as mine. Whenever there is something, whenever there is a secret, there is something to hide. And when there is something to hide, it raises many questions. And I've always said, with infrastructural projects, that is the area, that is the field for potential corruption. And so if we keep saying that the government is engaging in negotiations and deals that are not in the interest of St. Lucians, in whose interest is it? I do not buy the argument that our government officials are that stupid and do not understand business. I do not buy that argument. The question is, who benefits from those lopsided deals?
And if I can just add one thing, it is since the introduction of the infrastructure program that we have seen the level of discounting go to a different level. And so I do actually have evidence of where the program is being sold for less than $100,000. And I know that the government does as well.
Are you going to make that public?
Sure, I've actually shared it with some of the media houses already. I'd be happy to share it with you. Okay? And so the fact is that we have a crisis on our hand. This is not only being called out by the opposition. In fact, MSR is calling it out. The Europeans are calling it out. The reason why the Europeans are asking insistence on an MOA and for it to be binding. And one of the conditions of the MOA is that there be an independent regulatory agency where complaints can be sent to make sure there's not that level of discounting and that this thing is being integral. I was very heartened by the response by the Prime Minister in St. Kitts, who said that he's going to do an independent audit of all the citizenships that were given under this program and to make sure that people paid the right price. And I've said that the same thing, that we would do the exact same thing. There is a way to solve this problem. Each person who has gotten a citizenship in this country should have available to them the bank transaction to show that they paid the right amount of money.
Let me just say a few words before we end. Thank you, political leader. Thank you, Spider. I just want to, I mentioned earlier about our 60th anniversary celebrations, and this time we're taking it all the way to the diaspora, and this is on the 15th, Saturday the 15th of June. It's happening in Canada. It's being presented by the United Workers' Party Canadian Caucus, and it's happening at White Shield Banquet Hall at 2300 Lawrence Avenue, for those of you in Canada and in Scarborough, Toronto. So I just want to say thank you very much. I also understand that there is a rumor this morning by the St. Lucia Labour Party that I have resigned from the United Workers' Party. I want to make it categorically clear to everyone that this is total nonsense. I'm back home where I belong, in a house where I belong. And when you're in your house, you guard your house. And I have nowhere going but remaining with my party, the party of my youth, the party of my birth, the party of my mother, the party of my entire family, and to be able to help this effort to defeat the St. Lucia Labour Party. I also know that there were rumors and gossips about the fact that we were only able to attract 10 persons in Moshi. I want Kenson Casimir to understand, when NEMO puts out a report, United Workers' Parties are not a rogue organization. We respect what is said to us in terms of the weather service, and we will never put persons in harm's way. But you better watch for us this Sunday. We are coming out. We are not giving you a chance. You just start getting hit, my brother, because we are coming out as a party on Sunday, and we'll have a lot to say about your dismal performance as minister and representative of the people of Gros Islet. Thank you, and I thank everyone.